They all screamed, "No prologue!" So prologue to the prologue. A lawyer and an actor meet. It used to be you couldn't tell them apart. Now they smell clearly from one side. The one with a name on a white tag twist-tied to his big toe. It's a smell of death, and it comes from the actor. "What do you do?" asks the lawyer. "Political theater." "Hey, wait a minute, aren't you like Mr. Political Theater?" "Yeah, that's right, the." The lawyer's got giant testicles and a resume of death threats that extended to his family. Mr. Political Theater seizes the moment. "Look," he says, "my balls are as big as yours." "Well, what do you want?" "Everything you've got on security certificates." "No fucking around," says the lawyer. "I told you I'm Mr. Political Theater." "Well, how deep are you willing to go?" "Oh, deep." "How are you going to tell it?" "The way it should be told." The lawyer has a theory and tests it. "What do you think of 2 letters?" "Oh, man," Tony put his head on the block on that one. "You know what? Yikes, sorry." "Okay, this conversation is over," said the lawyer. "No, wait a minute. What? Are you kidding me? I do Chomsky, quote Hugo Chavez. I know who he's sleeping with, who's sleeping with who, and how it affects the world we live in. I got the fucking charts, man. I carry them with me. You want to see them? I'm talking world, man. Decolonizing the imagination." "That's what I want to hear," said the lawyer. "Okay, now will you give me your story?" "Why don't you go fuck yourself," said the lawyer. "You minstrel tap dancing idiot." So I was approached by several ghosts who handed me a list of notes on the prologue. "Not a threat," they said. "We love you, Tony." Some write, some act, some teach, produce, direct, promote. Some wish they did one or all of those things, even when they do one or all of those things. Some told me they knew what this was really about. What do I know? I just wrote this stuff. I can't see me the way they see me. Some met me in corners, in sewers, or at night, fearing I'd brand them as ghosts. And could I have it in writing, Tony, please? "Not a ghost, not me, Tony." Not realizing they had become one by the quality of their fear. But they all agreed on one thing: notes for the prologue. Heed. Too ambiguous, too many details. Go for the sonic, Tony. Pay attention to the rests. It's an open room. This writing in syllables lends itself to that. Syncopate or sink. And don't forget the given circumstances, Tony. Who, what, when, where, and why. I'm talking method acting, Tony. Sorry, the spine. Then they added one more. Good luck, Tony. I mean, you never want to piss off the ghosts, and they were thinking of you when they gave me these notes. You know, one of the ghosts said he's a smart man with a pretty good knowledge of what's going on, who feels dumb. And it's my fault. Or maybe he's just getting old, he said. He didn't have a problem only with the prologue. No, but with most of what he read. Even accused me of not telling him in advance how he should read what he read. Like a what? Like a who, he asked. How? And when I told him, with your ears, he thought I was making fun of him. He begged and then threatened to come out here and make a case for all those whom he feels feel like him. "You need someone like me in this," he said. "I've earned the right." "Well, I have too many ghosts to deal with," I said. "But you're in, as you are." You know, this loving ghost revealed that an audience comes to a space to play the role of audience in front of its own audience, the actor. He didn't want to discover his role as audience. No, he wanted me, the actor, his audience, to tell him what to play, how to play it, how to be. And when he bid me goodnight, he left me with this: if you're a thinker, Tony, you don't perform. You publish. More weight. More people. If you're performing, you're not thinking. Well, now that I've delivered the prologue to the prologue, I'll move on to the prologue. Minister Knavery, acting like real fucking savages, terrorists. How many pregnant women at Oka? Well, maybe we should send 2 planes. Unquote. There is meanness in the air. You would almost think, though you're not that stupid, that in these piping times with moving pictures on screens, big and small, words have lost their meaning. Those that might offend, that do offend, are often hidden in the middle pages of a book, in the middle paragraph of a chapter, the one we're still in a quote that contains the DNA of our times. How many pregnant women at Oka? These hidden words, not by the writer, but by choice, by all non-readers, are the mirror of the soul, hidden from the court of public opinion, that domain name of the 2 solitudes. And the unnamed scribe, architect and voice behind that quote, that sneaky, unnamed Goebbels of La Belle Province, that ex-provincial Liberal cabinet minister, Knavery, pitching in his solution. Send in the clowns. 2 low-flying reconnaissance planes over Ganasatake. 2 ear-splitting infernal noise-making machines that would practically guarantee premature births, stillborns, and miscarriages. Savages could once and for all miscarry their children, culture, future. Brilliant! A personal crusade. wholesale slaughter of a native people. I mean, we just might give Minister Navery an Order of Canada one day for his public service. And might he lead our nation one day and tell us what books to read and who should read them, who is free and who should die, or where we gather next for the next crystal night, and who qualifies, and how do we burn those who don't, right side up or upside down? And what will happen to the next Brecht in that climate? What will he or she have to say to save his skin? I never said those words, Your Honor. The character in my play did. And will somebody one day give the order to kick some ass and get the fucking actors out of the theater and use guns if you have to? That we should be so lucky or relevant? Or do we think an actor is worth more than an Indian? If that doesn't stir a country to wake up from its coma, or your blood, I don't know what does. And still we don't move and leave the Richards and Iagos of this world to mind the store and permit them to practice upon our peace and quiet, even to madness. 'Tis here and yet not confused, Iago. Knavery's plain face is always seen even before it's used. You simply weren't at the meeting, but those elected, they were there, and they saw Knavery's plain face. And Minister Knavery looked into the eyes of John Chacha, Quebec Minister for Native Affairs, author of Mirror of the Soul, a friend and a made brother to the Mohawks, and called him a flawed human being, a bastard, illegitimate Quebecois, a traitor. But John Chacha, a lonely saint in a sea of devils, quietly fought back. If this is how we deal with the First Nations, how do we deal with the second, third, fourth, and fifth? Where do we mark the beginning of our home and native land? Whose home and native land? What is our home and native land? And Chacha warned that history honors those who set precedents, not those who were shackled by them. Well, history won't have much to say, not here. But it will say it. And someone will talk to history and tell it what to say, and history better listen to those minds desperate and hungry to dig in and reserve their place in it. And each year, the promised year of atonement becomes simply the year of one more thing to atone. And the reasons for what should never have been are exactly the reasons for what should be, for what is, take it or leave it. Where fair is foul and foul is fair. Thank you, Orwell. We should have listened. You were clear. And just when we thought it was safe to be dangerous, a distinct society comes down hard on a Michel Tremblay, in my opinion, called him a traitor, an old fogey, an asshole, and advised him to keep his mouth shut or get the fuck out of the province. In the meantime, chew on this, Tremblay, a boycott of all your plays today. Tomorrow, we'll drown you in the fountain or burn you at the stake or drop a mighty blade at Carré Saint-Louis or our Place de la Concorde. Tremblay's crime? Voicing an opinion, his, not theirs. Make us proud, don't make us think. Two penguins show us the way in the delicate passing of an egg, where one little wrong, unintentional move brings on a nightmare, where nature cracks the egg in two, snuffs out the light, and with it a history of tomorrows, and still we are not moved. And scoff at and scorn the distributor who brought the film to our shores, telling him penguins are not box office material. John Chacha said that the battles he fought for the native people were really his own battles against injustice and discrimination, that the slights and hurt we suffer at a young age become a catalyst for action, that our past haunts and shapes us. In grade 9, I wrote a paper on freedom and authority. If a child is put in a room and we're told the room is the entire world, that there's nothing beyond it, and that he or she is completely free to do anything he or she wanted within it, is the child actually free? And what if curiosity inspired the child to poke a hole through the wall and he or she suddenly discovered there existed a beyond the room? Would that child still consider him herself of having been free? I know that an intersection with 4 green lights is a nightmare, and that one with 4 red lights is an equal nightmare. But how do we ensure that authority does not limit one's freedom in the name of safeguarding another's? At which point does one person's freedom infringe on another's? Who establishes the rules and boundaries? Are they discussed and agreed upon democratically with the child or imposed from above? Well, the teacher gave me a 90% mark with the following note in red ink. Very good, Tony, if it's yours. Minus 10%, just in case it isn't. I still remember the teacher's name. I'll never forget it. You know why? What I remember most about her is that she doubted my ability as a child to formulate and ponder questions on freedom and authority. She stands out in my mind not because she believed in the potential and possibilities pulsating and living in each individual child, but because she believed in and trusted more their limitations To feel in control, she needed to define, set in stone, my limitations, real or imagined. To entertain my potential impossibilities would have made her feel perhaps inadequate and therefore out of control. And so on the last day of school, as the boys dropped their pens and pencils to the floor one last time, hoping to get one last look at the religion teacher's promised land through the legs of the wooden desk and through that loosely tied shoelace-type zipper of her tight pants, I chose not to drop mine for once and look straight into her Polish blue eyes instead, thinking, when I was born, I was older than you are now, like all children. And here you are, still trying to kill what is yet to be born. With 2 plays in Calabrian, a bastard language even to Dante's Italian, I put on stage and exposed my family, relatives, and community. In both plays, freedom and authority was an essential theme. The risks and consequences of those efforts were not small and known by a handful. But as my father used to say, and certainly would have said about his recent death, these are things that happen only to the living. Over the last 30 years, I've acquired another family and community, theater and film. These letters are to them. The imaginary child in my 9th grade paper is now part of a large community of actors, all trapped in a room, free to do anything within the room, within reason, lots of toys, sharpened pencils, even prizes, a daycare center of sorts. God forbid one dares to put a finger to the wall and pierce through it to see what lies beyond. Tuning our ears to the safe, distant, classic voices of the past, we become deaf to the silent voices of the present, even our own. Blame it on the Italian oral tradition, but I believe that plays performed within the safety of the 4 walls too often fail to pierce that other wall, the one that surrounds the entire space, the 5th wall, the one that vacuum seals performers and audience members and fosters that unspoken renewal of season tickets' vow to maintain the lowest possible common denominator. And so a one-on-one becomes essential to break it. I mean, if I tell you that a group of wonderful actors did an amazing production of a brilliant play, you immediately have an image. If I then told you that the actors were performing for soldiers with guns aimed at each and every actor's head, say, in a concentration camp, the wonderful actors, amazing production, brilliant play becomes secondary, larger issues come into play, and that becomes the play. A dramaturgical ghost, a distinguished follower and preacher of the Epicure School of Theater on Queen Street in Toronto, took issue with me and argued that you, the audience, could not possibly understand actors performing with guns pointed at their heads. Too abstract, even for your imagination. That ghost, I assume, assumes you could identify with Elizabethan kings and queens and their evil deeds, presumably because they appeal to the Satan in all of us. But stuff closer to the bone? No, you're not qualified, apparently. You know what the ghost didn't know? Which is odd, since he seemed to know just about everything else, was that I did have a gun pointed at my head one day, warned not to set foot on a stage, and still did, ignoring the threat. I was 21. A life-altering experience I highly recommend to all actors. And that first post-threat defiant foot I set on stage was loaded with and anchored in meaning, purpose, and mortality, as I imagine not 1, 2, or 10, but 550 fucking guns aimed at my heart and head. But I'm still here, and that threat hangs over my head, like death hangs over all of us, my foot still planted in and inspired by its memory. But sometimes there are no guns, and no physical confinement, and more than one child or actor has pierced the wall with his finger, and the walls are full of holes, giving those inside a clear view of what lies beyond, that there is a beyond and a climate, and still nobody moves, by habit. And we create our own no exit. Slowly, there's a silent agreement that there are no holes, there is no beyond, and those who speak out pay for their sins or are attacked, discredited, marginalized, or wiped out. And like the young boys stranded on that Lord of the Flies island, we each make up our own mind about the beast that lies beyond or among us and live in fear. Leaving the door open for that one, that human demon, skilled in tapping into the pulse, who'll seize the day and destiny for all. I mean, the Quebec minister Navry, who thinks Aboriginals are less than human and voices that opinion, will get his Order of Canada one day, guaranteed. And the over-the-top Quebec judge, Rufo, the maverick, the unspoken and ardent defender of children's rights, gets lynched and might one day get the electric chair. In preparation for a trial, a lawyer once asked a dear friend, "Are you a reliable witness?" My friend answered, "At 82, I have the privilege of saying nothing but the truth." I've often thought, why do most of us wait till then when there's no guarantee we'll even make it that far? Why are we waiting for Godot? Alors on y va, allons-y, and we don't move. How long will we act? The act of waiting. End of prologue. Friday, December 30th, 2005. Dear Sarah, how much memory do you have? I ask because my email won't accept documents larger than a certain size. Whatever that is, I don't know. But I know there's a limit, and wonder if you know what your limit is, if it'll take this. Thank you for the Rent a Goalie scripts. I know so little about you, Sarah, though I feel I should know you better already or more by now. Since you've entered my home, my dining room, so late at night tonight, unannounced, without knocking, not even a phone call, you just appeared via email. Emails say so much, even when they say so little. You barely used 50 words in yours. Your attachments, the scripts, spoke for you. I have no idea if you're tall, short, thin, large, dark, pale, beautiful, if you're a Betty or a Veronica, or convince yourself daily that other women are more beautiful, if you like what you do or doing what you like, if you're very religious or fighting against it, if you're seeing someone with someone, in love with someone, and if that person rocked your world last night, and if he or she will do the same again tonight, if it is a he or a she, and what that he or she smells like. I don't know any of this. Not that I should or that I want to. I just don't know. It's a statement of fact. I can't smell the person you sleep with in your email. You know, I wonder if I would be able to smell them on you if I were closer to you, standing face to face. If I'd be able to tell you who he, she is before you had the chance to tell me. If the scent alone could tell me where he, she is from. And if I were to meet them, would I be able to smell you, your most intimate parts on them, and be able to guess who you are and what your culture is? Oh, Sarah, life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. You know, I have so much to do in so little time, and I was just getting down to doing it, you know. Here's one, a trilogy on the internment of Italian Canadians, mine. Here's another one, a film, mine. A character who becomes invisible even to himself for having played too many characters in The Line of Duty. I won't bother you with the other ones, Sarah. A stack of them on my desk. Actually, the dining room table. All by hard-working writers and directors. All deserving to be read. Slovenian, Armenian, French Canadian, English, Italian, Italian Canadian, Jewish Canadian. This one based on Kafka's letters to his father. But those other two, mine, occupy my time between my acting time. And so I kissed and sweet dreamed my 3-year-old boy goodnight, the greatest teacher I've ever had, came downstairs to read your emails and scripts, and couldn't get back to work, Sarah. I knew I had other work to do first. This letter, the third in a month. You'll be eating breadcrumbs for dinner for the rest of your fucking life, Tony! And there he was again, the ghost, standing in front of me, maybe 10, in my dining room. It wouldn't speak at first. It stood in judgment, and then more behind me, looking over my shoulder at what I had just written. Their voices were out of tune, bouncing off the walls, agitated, anxious. These professional gargoyles, these dramaturgical ghosts that some insane part of me had beckoned, were too hungry to dig in, even before there was anything to dig into. In sync, when they voiced opinions not quite my own, wanting my voice to be their voice and theirs to speak through mine. The loudest, angry as hell, telling me I was angry as hell and should perhaps seek therapy for it. His soul cloaked in the same robe and hood he once wore as a Jesuit monk in the backspace of spaces, which he played brilliantly, by the way. No, you don't know what you're messing with, Tony. Well, who knows enough to know that we know all there is to know? No offense, Tony, but your date of birth should have been the day you died. You should cease and desist. Write a play, not a letter. It's a diatribe, Tony. It's bitter, you fucking worm. It's full of venom. No, I haven't started. Don't start! We started that in the 60s, Tony. We. Agitprop crap. Oh, my skin. Oh, my fucking God. It's burning. I want it off. Off! And he peeled and peeled every crusty bit of it, cursing me for having soaked his soul in alcohol for the last 30 years, doing second-rate theater. The other ghosts, Sarah, cowards like him, with no courage to kill, but the polite request that I take my own life, vomiting some green gelatinous hemlock for me to drink, wishing they could offer me a meat cleaver instead, so I could dig in and drain the life out of my jugular. But the cleaver was out on loan, apparently, still stuck in the neck of a career criminal, a self-executioner to be exact, a brother in arms. My closest, a saint and a martyr, obsessed with perfecting his art, death, until he gets it right. I had no idea, he had no idea things were so bad. It was dramaturgically clear to everyone That selfish son of a fucking bitch. How sad these ghosts, Sarah, should want to waste their instruments of torture and poison on me, I thought. I mean, there are more deserving people out there. These ghosts should concern themselves with, heretic, Tony! This is the biggest mistake of your life. You will pay for this, Tony. But I stabbed and glued my pen to paper. I dug in, and I kept writing and thinking, this same day must end the work that the Ides of March begun. And they vanished. Obviously thirsty for blood, not ink. The skinless demon yelling, here's the 10 years of unemployment at least. You're going to hell, Tony! The voices lingering long after they left. Hell, 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 bullshit, 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 Tony, hell, 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 bullshit. Sarah, I won't start with it all started in because it's always been. I just came in the middle of it, born into it when I decided to play, to act, as a way of finding truth while trying to entertain the ham in me. There are many places and things I remember, glued to my memory. When did I learn that those who supply the laughs often lack them? That I forget. In 1994, fresh from a Roman holiday, all battle and no fun and exposed nerves, I received a call from Quebec. A hush-hush, top secret, don't tell anyone, Tony. It was an offer, then a package, delivered to the door in 10 volumes with an elegant bow that screamed, go ahead, Tony, turn this down. Omerta, the law of silence. In its third trimester, destined for TV immortality. One of Quebec's all-time most popular TV series where the numbers were something like over 1 million viewers per episode, if not 2 million. Numbers producers in English Canada dream of, but seldom see. Well, 3 years in a row, I said no. The money was okay money, even by today's standards. Why turn down a down payment on a house when I could hardly make payments to the one I had? Why turn down a down payment on a house when I could hardly make the payments on the one I had? I know I said that twice, Sarah, and I meant it, in case you missed it the first time. You know, the characters they wanted me to play was, well, he made sense to the French-Canadian creators, but not to me or most Italo-Canadians. The question was, would they give me veto power over the content of the character which I had asked for to prevent and or delete cliches? Well, the initial reaction to my single request, you know, my simple, very simple request was right out of a Sergio Leone film, where the badly dubbed, over-the-top laughter from the chorus of thugs suddenly and unnaturally stops as we see in close-up the ribbons of sweat stream down their tense faces. You know what I'm talking about. As if I, the stranger, the man with no name, had accused them of insulting my mule and expected an apology because my mule was taking it personally, as mules generally do. But if they apologize, as I know they will, I might convince my mule they really didn't mean it. And so I lit a cigarillo while telephoning my stare. The producers went for their guns. I didn't budge, trusting the metal breastplate I wore for the occasion tucked under my skin. But before any shot was fired, they gave my request some thought. Thank God. Chats with the director and writer were arranged. By the way, a goateed ghost in a tight wool scarf and affected English accent, Calabrian by birth, mid-Atlantic by choice, a pretentious bastard who looks down on people by looking up, recently warned me that all characters are types, even commedia characters. Dottore del Cazzo, that's a type too. You see, Sarah, the French-Canadian characters were human, relatively complex, and fun to play. Great news for the French-Canadian actors. The Italo-Quebecois characters, on the other hand, were, well, thin cardboard cutouts, and only fun for the creators. Certainly not for the actors who had to play them, something the writer couldn't see. The writer maintained that he had created well-rounded Italo-Quebecois characters, that he had seen real-life Italian mobsters in courtrooms, face-to-face, that his script was fraught with bone-chilling authenticity, maybe too authentic, Tony. As Tigger says to Rue, you just can't argue with a word like fraught. I mean, how do you argue with that? You can't, though I tried to see if I could change their perception of Italo-Quebecois independent of their criminal activity. A fundamental difference between the writer and myself over what constitutes a stereotype, and believe it or not, what a real Italian mobster looks like and how he or she behaves, resulted in my saying, no thank you, keeping my subtext to myself. The Italian-Canadian actors could have improvised better characters in a second. Instead, they swallowed their tongues along with their battered professional and cultural pride and did the show and their best, and were even nominated for Les Gémeaux Gemini Awards. The show was over, people made money. The writer apparently made lots of money. Built himself a humongous castle-type farm from where he could pen more authentic tales. French-Canadians loved this series. Italo-Quebecois, on the other hand, turned into rye or American programming when it aired. Not as a protest, no, just as a matter of habit and lack of interest in the series and in Canadian programming in general. I mean, the series was a celebration of Quebec's fascination with the Montreal Italian mob, nothing more. It was an embarrassment, socially and artistically, especially for Italo-Canadians, and the Montreal Italian community kept silent like perpetual tenants in a cultural ghetto of hell. And to think the series producers, when offering the role, included the following in a letter. Well, we don't want to make something as cliche as Coppola's The Godfather, Tony. I kept thinking, do anything close to that movie, I'll do it for free. Chances are you've never heard of Omerta, but you might have actually heard of Coppola's The Godfather. And it's not like Italian Americans had no problem with Coppola's film. Oh, I know what you're thinking, Sarah. You're reading my mind and thinking it, and you're right. Since '94, even some Italo-Canadians, unfortunately, have attempted to better the Canadian mainstream cultures with laughable efforts like Mambo this and Chow that, and you're right. The 3 M's are a problem, have always been a problem. Mama, macaroni, and mafia. Yes, they don't reflect a reality, but a malady. That's the 4th M, the one that counts. My dear gatekeeper, my sister in arms, Sarah, you're so right, just out of the gate. So new at what you do and so wise. At least that's how I like to picture you, Sarah, as an ally. I mean, what would you tell them, Sarah? Those Italo-Canadian scribes who follow others' shadows, hoping to be contaminated by their genius, instead of looking at the shadow they cast and realizing that in its shape and substance is their father, mother, and all their ancestors, more material and drama than they could ever wish to deal with. Those Italo-Canadian writers and poets who embrace a David Mamet or a Godfather 1, 2, or 3 as their dramaturgical god and guide. I know what you would say to them, Sarah. Don't think of gods when writing your stories, because they didn't think of you when they wrote theirs. I know you would also tell them you and your mainstream counterparts are still the best reason why we should watch only classic films and not stop reading the classics. They speak more of you and for you than what you can say about you and your times. You are new, but the new works you've written are yet to be born. That's what you would say to them, Sarah. And I thank you for saying it and not leaving it up to me to tell them. They would see it as a betrayal, as un-Italian Canadian. Maybe you're like the gentle spirit, Ophelia, raised like a good little girl, behaved like one all your life, and what I'm saying, where I'm going, seems like madness to you, a settling of accounts out of all proportion. But stay the course, Sarah, please. Don't be frightened. Don't hang a wreath on a willow tree just yet. Don't fall into the brook. And if you do, make the effort to save yourself, Sarah. Don't end it. Keep beginning it. You still have so much more to say to my Italo-Canadian brothers and sisters. You still have so much more to do. Yes, true, as gatekeeper and broker, I know you don't decide. You follow the list, you send out invitations, and then read the verdict. At least that's what you've told yourself and convinced yourself that should you be crucified for voicing an opinion, upside down is the way to go, like that ultimate gatekeeper and saint, Simon Peter. But remember, Sarah, that a church was built on his grave. So don't bind yourself with the chains he left behind. Remember that on those fucking chains now sits Michelangelo's Moses, staring down at all those who worship golden calves and urging you to strike your art with a hammer and chisel so it can speak. Remember that the little boy who wrote Chrysler, that he loved to draw cars, now runs Chrysler's design program, that Tom Edison overcame his deafness to invent the phonograph, and that whoever invented the light bulb made possible what others angrily maintained was impossible, and that impossibilities are still being discussed daily under the light of the gazillion bulbs daylighting the world during a sleeping sun. There's one dangling over your head right now, Sarah. So stay the course, Sarah. Don't talk down to the little guy in you, and make your namesake proud. Jewish or not, remember that Abraham's wife was also told what was possible and impossible, even laughed when God told her she would bear a son, and at the age of 91, she gave birth to Isaac. He laughed. So speak, Sarah, and people will listen. Take a stand. Tell those fools, those Italo-Canadian writers, to look behind the curtains before they stab, especially in their own homes. Tell them that stabbing their Polonius or their conscience is no way to impress their mother, who is still wiping their ass, changing their diapers, and breastfeeding them at the ripe toddler age of 34 or 50, those fucking middle-aged babies. Tell them to confront their stains instead of wondering how their mothers managed to bleach them out of their underwear once again. Tell them to grow up and to be the eternal child they were meant to be. Tell them to go in and stay in till there's a reason to come out, or until they realize that the reason was always there, but they chose to look the better way and played organ grinder and mandolin, because apparently that's what every John Doe, Dick and Harry, and every Who down in Whoville wanted to see and hear. Sarah, you principled and honest Cordelia, who says what she means and means what she says, no strings attached. Tell it like it is. And I promise you, no Edmund will ever touch you or get close to you, I'll take the fucking bullet for you. So ask those Italo-Canadian writers what they do when they sit alone at night in their bed, staring at those books they've yet to read, the ones still wrapped in plastic bags, and the rows and shelves of classics in first editions that stare right back at them and make them feel so fucking small for not having tried. What voice, what tongue does that moment have for them, Sarah? Ask them, Sarah, and then tell them, write that. And then have the courage to tell me that, Sarah. Don't spare me. I'm not looking for an out. This letter is only a start. I'm sorry if it's not good enough. I'm sorry if you think it's cowardly to speak from the bunker of my own home late at night instead of standing on some stage, exposing myself in an act of courage, as you would call it. But courage never entered into it, Sarah. There's no courage here, you know. This is an act of necessity that scolds the year we're about to leave forever and serves the one we have yet to ring in and discover. You know, a gift of words was given to me just minutes ago by that musical prophet Marsalis, talking about jazz when I thought he was talking about life. Like, you know, how it's a healing, not by running, but a healing of the engagement, that in order for us to heal, we have to deal with it. We can't run from it. The more we run from it, the more we run into it. And I ran into it again tonight, Sarah, in your attachments. So don't run away from me or it. My point is your point. Embrace it before you pass it on to those who hired you, assuming you will. Will you? And now, let's forget about those Italo-Canadian writers. Circus monkeys with hairy mouths, fan-clubbing each other's work like dogs licking each other's balls after they've licked their own. Spick and spanning their shit. Always keeping it clean and fit for a queen. We won't even bother with those Italo-Italians, you know, those hyper Italiani who embrace Italo, snubbing the Canadian part of that hyphen, those skin protected by tenure and titles, sharpening, filing, refining their Gucci noses, bending and twisting their tips towards the sky, just above the cesspool of Italian Canadianism. Because that's not their reality. Oh, no, no, no. They just live here, own a home, carry Canadian passports while forcing their Dante through the hearts of dialects. We won't say anything about them. And we won't say anything about Telelatino, because there's nothing to say on Telelatino. A credit to Telelatino for sponsoring these letters and backing a view that disagrees with theirs. This is a first. And let's not say anything about the movers and shakers, you know, that move and shake the outside but have never stirred or moved the living cell in their body, preaching from their wallet to their whores, parking million-dollar cars in 10,000 square foot homes, wasting all those precious tomorrows for the little thrills of today. And let's not scrape the bottom of the barrel, Sarah, those semi-conscious, unconscious soccer goon donkeys that neigh, Viva Italia! Up and down St. Clair avenues of the world, going door to door in search of like-minded chromosomes, taking great pleasure in kicking Brazilian ass, terrorizing 8-year-old non-Italian fans while desperately searching for an I, a me, a we, and the tricolor flag of a foreign country. Let's not, please, let's not say anything about them, Sarah, except hair gel. There, Sarah. I've out-abled Abel and given you the entire community on a platter, the good, the bad, and the ugly, soaked in and dripping with blood, from the meat hooks of the butcher shop to you. I've never slaughtered so many to say so little. I'm in there too, Sarah. Don't let this pile of pale blood throw you. Its color was robbed by the too many missed and squandered opportunities, and by spitting once too many times at nature, procession of specters. And now, let's get some of my dead father's wine from the cantina, and in it bury all unkindness, because from the brim to the dregs it pours clear and sweet, even his vinegar, Sarah. Let's forgive them now, these writers, to avoid having to forgive ourselves later for not having forgiven them sooner. Death becomes us. We sadly excel in obituaries where we fail in life and drama, and we criticize the Americans for praising the living the way we praise the dead. So let's praise these living Italo-Canadian pasty writers for having played doormat to generations yet to come. Besides, they're incidental, Sarah, where this letter is concerned. I mean, we're not going to blame them for what you sent me, are we? You know, some ghosts would argue you were simply doing your job, Sarah. What you thought and believed was in the actor's interest and should be commended for it, or that you were just following orders. I mean, how many times have we heard this defense from middle people throughout history? It seems middle people like it both ways. If it's a good idea, they were an integral part of it. If it's a bad one, they were just following orders. Now have a drink, Sarah. Make it tea, green tea. I need you sober. In 1994, I tripped on a lesson when I ran into a Montreal director friend in Rome near the Colosseum. Why did you do it, Tony? How could you? I knew what he meant without him having to say it. And I had no answer for him, only shame, profound shame. The thought that one day my own child, didn't have any then, could ask me the same question and that I'd give the same answer numbed my innards. I thought about the value, weight, and responsibility of what we do and how easy it is to forget to remind myself of that very important question before every project. Why am I doing this? I'd always done that. In 1988, with some colleagues, we managed to change the Canada Council's definition of legitimate theatre, insisting that funding for bastard Canadian plays written in languages outside the official legitimate ones should come from its legitimate purse and not from its illegitimate other culturalism department. We fought and won a similar battle with the Canadian Actors Inequity Association. And yet here I was, Sarah, thousands of miles away from home in the Eternal City, capital of my birthplace, only a few hundred feet from the Colosseum and a few hundred feet from Michelangelo's Moses and a few blocks from Santa Maria Maggiore, with its ceiling gilded with the gold brought back by one of the first to rape the New World, Columbus. Here I was in the land of explorers, including the first Penguin Classics laundered Italian and rapist John Cabot, who stabbed a Venetian and an English flag into the heart of Cape Breton, Newfoundland or Labrador in 1498. Here I was, surrounded by the weathered and majestic art of Bernini and by a dozen or so frescoes by that genius of chiaroscuro and patron saint of all filmmakers and cinematographers, big and small, Caravaggio stuffed into corners of big and small churches all over Rome. Here I was fucking blinded by a hot Roman sun. Here I was in Caput Mundi, with all its glories and contradictions. And I couldn't fucking move, Sarah. I couldn't fucking appreciate or hate any of it. So stunned and frozen by my friend director's comment that I didn't even see him leave with his wife and kids, though I'm sure I said goodbye to him. I mean, it was he who years before had filmed for Quebec Public Television parts of my first play in defense of authentic voices and celebration of difference and against the practice of types. I wasn't hurt by his comment. I knew it expressed his hurt, as if he and I had been carrying Rome back home on our shoulders, and I let it fall. It was a sudden weight of responsibility. Wouldn't let me fucking move, Sarah, or breathe. A fucking statue dripping with shit. I fit right in. Something is rotten in the state of me. To be or not to be, that is not the question, Hamlet. That I did not die, and I was not alive. Yes, that is the problem, Dante. I felt raped by a film negative thousands of miles away, and by me. Wow, I thought, film, it's not like theater. It might follow you around, even when you wish it had stayed at home on the back shelf of some Cinematex freezer. It should have been fucking burned. They burned actors, didn't they? I mean, maybe even where I was standing, right there. I mean, fucking Rome. No, let the film live, I thought, and serve as a reminder of my stupidity and cowardice. I mean, the only thing worse than the stench of your own feces is the smell of the bad work you do. It travels a larger space and in greater circles, your mind, heart, and soul. My director friend was referring to Les Amoureuses. He was right. The character I played in that film was a cliche, notwithstanding that I had managed to effect some changes just before the shoot, eliminated as many cliches as possible, and was somewhat supported by the wonderful Quebec writer-director who really tried, to understand my point about types, but simply couldn't. Her perception about Italo-Quebecois was so strange and quite common. I did two things. I introduced her to Italo-Quebecois in Montreal who spoke French-Canadian as well as she did. I also suggested she go to Italy to date and sleep with an Italian man so she could write from a place of knowledge, or at least first-hand experience. She did both. She was amazed that the Italian Quebecois living in Montreal were not at all consistent with her perception of them, and she had lived in Montreal all her life. Oh my God, Tony, they're just like us. I'm so glad you took me to the zoo. Look at that. And though she did go to Italy just before the shoot, she did not date an Italian man, nor did she sleep with one. No love at the drop of a hat, not in a car, not on a beach, not behind a bush or a church, not on a mountaintop or underwater, not even in a fucking bed. What the fuck was Barzini talking about and the Italians, she thought. In fact, she lamented that no one had even pinched her ass. That's right. She wanted that very thing tourist books and word of mouth warn women about in Italy, She was so looking forward to the pinching, but no such luck, She took it hard as a rejection of her femaleness. And her perception of Italian men in Italy was also altered forever. This double change in perception, unfortunately, did not save the film from its ingrained view of Italian men. I was the willing guinea pig. And even the narrow streets of Rome were not going to let me forget that. Christy Blatchford, by the way, in a recent It's the Journey That Matters, Not the Destination article, bemoaned an incident at the Frankfurt airport. A stocky German woman security guard apparently grabbed her body all over the place with her ham-sized mitts and pinched her ass so fucking hard, she actually squawked. Christy confessed that she has always harbored the hope that someday, like in Rome, a, quote, roguish Italian would indulge in this doubtlessly wrong, archaic and sexist, but nonetheless flattering behavior, unquote. But you know, you ask for roses, they come with thorns, the saying goes. And God knew what he was doing that day, you know, so when Christy got to Turin, a yellow Labrador humped one of her legs. To her credit, she acknowledged the whole thing seemed appropriate. You know, after that brief chat with my director friend in Rome, I realized that what one does on film, one has to live with, must be able to live with and be able to go to the grave, not regretting. A film might linger for a while, a couple of years maybe, even if it's bad. It's not the unpaid royalties that offends most actors. It's not that our Performers' Rights Society projects a terrifying image of a muzzled chihuahua, but the visual reminder of how low we have stooped in our work. That's what kills. One of the more telling exchanges I had with the writer-director revolved around a scene that I thought was unfunny. Forget cliche. I mean, she didn't think that the scene was funny or unfunny. She thought it was great, you know, and defended its quality. Not because it had any. She simply thought it must have been good, could not possibly be unfunny or cliche, because guess what? Her ex-husband, the Quebec film director, had written it. How could I disagree with him? And she paused, and then punctuated the pause with that, got you, smiling eyes. I said, you know what? Even if Jesus of Nazareth had risen from the dead to write it himself, it still doesn't work. She again tried to understand but couldn't. I mean, you can't change a core belief or ignorance. It takes time and way too many casualties. And even then, I mean, what's the fucking big deal? You know, what's so offensive about a scene in a film about an Italian character coming out of the bathroom naked with his dick in his hand singing opera as he looks lovingly at his willing and proud prey, his French-Canadian girlfriend, who is standing next to her best friend, who, oh my, is all over the place, and who, with eyes only, asks the girlfriend, hey, does he come with batteries? I want an Italian, come on. But this was a step up from the film I did with an icon of Quebec cinema and a friend who asked me to scratch my balls just like an Italian. In a scene, I was playing a Polish-Italian character. You know, I asked him to scratch his balls first so I can get some ideas. Well, he did, with a sweaty tongue hanging from the side of his mouth like a St. Bernard. No kidding. Hey, like this, Tony. You know, I looked at it and I said, no, you know what, I think we don't need that, you know. Hey, but look, if you think it's necessary, do me a favor, okay? During the scene, you know, when you think it's appropriate, why don't you just put your hand in the frame and your face and scratch my balls for me? I mean, for my character, you know what I mean? It could be like your Hitchcock thing, appearing now and then. Plus, I just saw you do it, you know, the tongue thing, it's so fucking great. It's so fucking French-Canadian. I mean, if someone were to ask me, how does a poutine scratch his fucking balls? That's it. That's great. It could be your director thing. Come on, I'm defending your idea here. Work with me, scratch my balls. This coming from a director who on the set and out loud mock accused me too many times of betraying Quebec by living in Toronto. Because the French like Italians more than the English, he said. Stay here, Tony. Okay, well, I mean, most actors worry about how to be different with each character they play. Suddenly, if I stayed only in Quebec, I would have an added challenge. How many different ways can I scratch my balls in various roles I play? And how would I feel about hiring him as my professional ball scratcher? I mean, what's the big deal about scenes like that in a film, in a province proud of its language, culture, and land? Death to a 400-year-old refrain by natives that they too believe in language, culture, and land. What's the big deal smack in the middle of an Oka crisis where some of my co-Ilo-Quebecois were background vocaling, fuck the Indians, kill them all, man. I want my fucking beach back, and don't fuck with my lasagna. Those one chromosome too many Italos who wish, even today, that the east end of Montreal were carpet-bombed with napalm to selectively wipe out the entire French race. I mean, I'll tell you what the scene is. I'll tell you what one image does, just one image. Just look at the reactions to the burning of American flags on home turf or abroad, the desecration of a Quebec flag in Brockville, and the newspaper character in Europe of a people's sacred God, and you will have all the answers you'll need. And does the Globe and Mail shock and awe headline about our trials and victories at the recent Winter Olympics not chill your fucking bones? Does it not define man's inhumanity to man? And does it not make you wonder why we wonder why people would want to extend golf course over a cemetery? Is that not pissing on a war memorial? Or why we make fun of a Peter Finch in Network? Is it because we, unlike his character in the movie, have a sick capacity to take it and take it and take it? And then the icing on the cake, you know, the reviews for Les Amoureux, hailing the Italian stallion. Me, too positive, therefore too disturbing. Too room with the viewers, too Tuscany blinded, too, oh, I'm so in love with the Ponte Vecchio, I understand why the Nazis refused to bomb it. Forgetting the Nazis has stacked the trains with the finest objet d'art, human cargo. I felt like a fraud in Les Amoureux. I stand by that definition 11 years later. And I have also never regretted Omerta. It was the right choice, even for a fistful of dollars a day. You know, years later, the screenwriter, that self-appointed expert on mobsters, giddy with too much fermented sugar from an Italian beverage he had had in an Italian restaurant in celebration of the show's last season at that evening's Gémeaux Awards, said, like right out of Cuckoo's Nest, you know, "Hey, Tony, you're the only actor who ever never did not do the show, you know?" Of course, he meant the only Italian actor. Like he had forgotten our conversation 5 years before. The only actor, the only good thing about a violent and hell-infested childhood is that you come across Rilke's advice to a young poet quite naturally and marry solitude early on, to go within, search for the cause, to find impetus that bids you to live or write is all you have when those who gave you life have beaten to a pulp everything outside your within. Only actor. Took me back to Les Amoureux, my first meeting with the writer-director in a bar. The time I told her to go to Italy because the character she thought she had written was still waiting to be written. "Oh, you get to the point, Tony. You hit below the belt. You don't fool around," she said. Then, taking another sip from her cognac, she stared at me, planning her next move, sharpening her next line, and continued, "I've seen 50 Italian actors for this role in Toronto, Tony. Every single one of them loved the role and would love to play it. You're the only actor who said there's anything wrong with it, and I think you're right. Will you play the part and work on it with me?" And we did our best, which fell short. The good news is most people in Canada don't get the chance to see the film, you know. Quebec films, sadly, are usually filed under foreign films category in most video stores across the country. An irony not lost on Quebec, especially given the out-of-province Canadians who suddenly crowd Montreal streets waving maple leaf flags just before a referendum. Of course, the failure of the referendum is then blamed on the immigrants by the brilliant French-Canadian supremacist Parizeau. He's not going to blame the English. No, he needs them. He said so himself. Once Quebec separates, he intends to give the whole Mohawk nation to English Canada. Here, you take care of them. Brilliant. But that's another story, Sarah. Parizeau didn't write the scripts you sent me, though I guess he could have. You know, a prominent Quebec actor, used to be president of the Actors Union, once told me that Quebec males, including film directors, are deeply insecure about ethnic males, and in particular Italian men. They fear their women will be swept away. And that with that goes the language and culture. He wasn't joking, by the way. I mean, I guess that explains why, years later, another popular Quebec filmmaker nearly attacked me at the Chambord Castle in France during a film festival. You know, I was just there saying goodbye to everyone, including his lovely wife, not realizing the tip of my tongue was tickling the back of her uvula, a pound of butter concealed in my right hand, and a month of May erection from here to eternity, savoring le steak, le partie, his wife. I mean, that's what he saw. I was actually just saying goodbye to her from across the table. But he, hey, toi mon tabarnak, Tony, toi mon calice, you know, I know you Italians, Tony, I'm watching you. I mean, he was joking, of course, you know, in front of a table about 30, 40 people in the fucking big castle. But the way he was joking showed that he was not joking. He was just keeping his options open. The message was clear. The joke was part of the notwithstanding clause. You know, this director, no fool, Sarah, like all French-Canadian males, you know, he did his homework. You know, he read everything the French-Canadian women were reading on Italy, but intrigued and consumed more by the insightful warnings of John Addington Symonds, who in 18-something wrote, "Beneath the surface of a brilliant social culture lurked gross appetites and savage passions." Or was it Emperor Charles V, Maxim, that put the fear of God in all French-Canadian men, who said, "I speak Spanish to God, Italian to women, French to men, and German to my horse"? And if you're Calabrian, you're fucked. And you have to deal with Norman Douglas's 1915 pen, who wrote, "Calabria, a perfectly savage Europe, the devil's headquarters in the devil's own country, an odd type of humanity, gargoyle type, you know, infested with professional cutthroats, unshaven creatures, ferocious and fetishistic, a soulless cult of rhythm, a subterranean crypt in a Mediterranean crater where one understands the uses and perhaps the origins of incense, where cow women are still to be found and those not exclusively beasts of burden are the exception, where the male is the exclusive bearer of culture, where the hills are literally swarming with brigands like Mamona, the anthropophagonous monster who killed hundreds of people with the greatest refinements of cruelty, who wore a skull out of which he drank human blood. Indeed, he never dined without having a bleeding human heart on the table. So dangerous and diseased a place, this Calabria, that even the domesticated and honest Englishman is shocked. And, as befits his virile race, the Saxon learns to play the game so well to earn the highest praise. Italianized Saxon devil incarnate. And just in case you haven't developed a distaste for Southern Italy yet, Douglas hits one out of the ballpark with, one is apt to forget that South Italy was swarming with Jews for centuries. It should be mentioned, by the way, lest you forget. And how would you know? Since you didn't know to begin with, that while writing this opus, while, this full-blooded account of Calabria, while the South and most of Italy was afternoon siesta-ing, Douglas enjoyed a daily healthy diet of buggery and cocksucking with a 12-year-old boy he had picked up in London. Pause, why don't you? And focus on the age, boy or girl, doesn't matter. It's amazing to me, Sarah, that these French-Canadian writers and directors needed me to remind them of stuff they should have known had they bothered to make just one trip to Toronto and talk to any French-Canadian actress usually considered for and cast in only exotic, diabolic, and very fuckable roles. Because they're French, have an accent. Hey, aren't all French women exotique, diabolique, fuckabolique? There's something sitting bullish about these experiences, a never-ending nightmare tour with Buffalo Bill and his Wild West show, where the contract ends in hell, as per the Faustian clause in the deal memo, where the Indian is always shown in the best possible light, attacking whites, scalping men, women, and children, accurate historical depictions, where being chosen to represent your people in such a light should be an honor you shouldn't fucking shit on. And even when delivering wall-to-wall dialogue, Sitting Bull actors are still in a silent film, while all the others are in a talkie. Divide and conquer, cutting out tongues, taking a culture, tying its arms and legs to 4 horses, and yeehaw in 4 separate ways until the body breaks. And the last stop, always Wounded Knee, always a massacre. And you start by creating a character, abnormal, ab-original. Just a thought, by the way. The Indian is the first North American gangster, the first bad guy. So bad, Sarah, the enlightened 60s, we're still putting him in those large Hostess chip bags, with a tomahawk in hand. And the next bag, if you were lucky, would have one of General Custer's cavalry soldiers, which we kids would use to hammer the Indian with. Welcome to Canada, Antonio. And then a couple of Sitting Bulls in full garb, trapped between 2 Mounties on postcards, mugshots to send back to the old country to assure them the bad guys were being caught every day here, treated well, and we were safe, and our scalps still where they were meant to be, thank God. I didn't see many Westerns in Italy, Sarah. Bonanza was about it. And when we came to Canada, we were stunned and wondered how the Cartwrights managed to learn English so quickly. The Western's heir apparent is the gangster movie. The Italian became the new Indian, the urban savage, with horsepower, not on horseback, along with the black American, of course. But the other gangster is the actor, the outsider of outsiders. It's fitting that the one person in Bonanza who had a problem with Bonanza was an actor, the one who played the eldest son, Adam, a dark presence in the otherwise happy and bright Bonanza family. He left the show, Sarah, because of the ongoing conflict with the writers. Adam believed in human rights for all, and he took a lot of heat from an America whose brotherhood of man churches excluded too many brothers and sisters. Adam versus America, like Sitting Bull debating Buffalo Bill and Arthur Kopitz play Indians, where Sitting Bull has just about had up to here with middlemen and stupid people. And Buffalo Bill tells him, hey, you better start loving them, okay? Hugging them and sleeping with them, even kissing their fucking ass, unless you want your people to starve to death. I dragged Sitting Bull's monologue from that play to the Banff School of Fine Arts in 1981 and was ambushed by the head of the drama department, taken to a makeshift courtroom, the gym, a room way too big for the slaughter, put on trial with no dime to call a lawyer, and slapped around for about half an hour, privately, of course. And he said, "The fuck was that, Tony?" He used fuck like some entry code between you and me sort of thing, to reel me in, to assure me I could trust everything that came out of his mouth from that moment on. But from that moment on, I trusted him even less. Tony, fuck the headband, the Indian shit you did, and then you do that Spanish guy doing Brando, Mark Anthony, Richard the fucking Third. Tony, do you have any Shakespeare in English, Tony? And in a room with only him and one of his cronies, maybe 2, and without thinking twice, I described Iago's need to diet his revenge. And I looked right at him. And when I got to the part, the thought whereof doth like a poisonous mineral gnaw my innards, and nothing can or shall content my soul till I am evened with him. That was acceptable. And then I told him I was leaving Banff. It was not for me, but for those who like to wrap themselves around a TV set to watch a royal wedding, apparently the only news worthy of penetrating that Rocky Mountain learning oasis. Those who love themselves in the art, not the art in themselves. But apparently, even leaving Banff on principle was not acceptable. No, no, no. It violated the school's code of ethics and might set a dangerous precedent. Fuck you, fuck that. My bags were packed. And I would unpack them only if I could choose my own curriculum and teachers. Take it or leave it. And I gave him till midnight Saturday to consider. Ample time to set a precedent. Well, you know, Saturday night at Banff was like, hey, well, Saturday night anywhere, right? With teachers and students basking in a sea of liquor, where actors walk through plate glass doors, splitting their heads open from nape to nose, leaving a trail of blood a mile long, quietly retiring to their dorm, believing it was only a paper cut. So, I mean, I was asking the big cheese, you know, to forego all that fun and frolic and take a stand. One he might act, he considered taking with him when he resumed his duties as head of the University of Alberta's theatre department. The clock was ticking. I spent the summer at the Banff School of Fine Arts, mesmerized and awestruck by its stunning faculty of music and nothing else. And then a sting, a report card with a loud C as its highest mark, a C for acting, a C for diction, a C of C's, it seemed. Well below the A+ my father had insisted on and demanded since grade 1. And so I left the gates of Little Bighorn Banff, a naked warrior, a mixed blood, mauled, arms and legs broken, shattered by bullets, the missing pound from my heart, buried under a pile of Rockies, my scalp gracing the proud belt of the big cheese back at the ranch. And my flight home, the longest walk I ever walked, sitting on a dead horse, going nowhere, decaying in the sun, wiped off the earth, not like old Sitting Bull, but more like one of his daughters, you know, bleeding from a hole just above the nipple, knowing my heart, unlike the liver, never grows back to size. An Italian, Canadian actor playing an Indian. A man with no name on a horse with no name. It was a good day to die. But I went against the grain and chose not to. I miss the humor, Tony. A ghost, this one, you know. No slouch, Sarah. She comes packed with a PhD in theater. Tony, you need more humor, too much narrative, you know. I know. I initially said you should keep it, you know, in, then I said you shouldn't. But I know I said you were being too kind, that you should be harder. You should develop the personal stories in a dramatic way, but not getting rid of the letter format, Tony. I personally prefer from the specific to the general, Tony, okay? That's what I think you should do, Tony, because you're going from way out here, Tony, to the specific. I'm waiting, Tony. You know what I mean? You know what I mean, Tony? I mean, I'm not stupid, Tony. I get it. We get it. Okay, fine, then go. Go! No one's holding you back. Go! Humor comes when it feels like it. It doesn't feel like it right this minute, okay? And maybe you staying here will delay it even more. No, Tony, you need to know what is. Everything cannot be equally important, Tony. You have to decide. Well, I mean, how do you fucking know? What if I think everything is equally important? What if I tell you the people who don't think everything is equally important, I do not trust? Because somehow I am subject to their taste. But if I tell you that those who think everything is important at least might allow for what others think is important. No, Tony, you have to decide. You have to. Why am I debating a fucking ghost on what I think is important? How do we decide? How do I decide? Who's gonna fucking tell me? If I think everything is equally important, who's gonna tell me to prioritize my list? Who? I mean, what do you think is important? No. Write it, perform it, and share it. I mean, we know we're getting to the point. There is a fucking point. We know we're going there. And if you want the point now, because you know if you know what the point is, then maybe you do not need to be here. Well, you asked me, Tony. You wanted me to come. I know, but now I want you to leave, okay? For 24 years, I've been asking you to come, and you've been a royal, loyal, and giving dramaturgical pain in the ass, a queen, and I thank you. Thank you! But there's no place for shoulds and shouldn'ts in dramaturgy. Let the child actor, writer discover the shoulds and shouldn'ts. View the world from the cradle, not the grave. We know we're going somewhere, and sometimes the point is not the point. The journey there becomes the point, and that's okay. The journey there might be the bigger point. No, Tony, I'm talking about structure, okay? What is structurally important? There is a difference, Tony. No, we'll have a chance to play in those well-structured, architecturally perfect plays. We'll have a time for that. This is not what this is about. This is not what this is about. This is about something else, okay? The lack of structure. No, I lie. The lack of obvious structure. The lack of, look what a good little boy I've been to my dramaturgical ghost fucking structure. Where the actor decides to trust the writer within, and the writer leaves the actor alone. This maybe pays tribute to what Brecht said. Oh, fuck Brecht, Tony! Does everything have to start with Brecht? No, you know, when Brecht said about direct, talking to the audience, no illusion, talking directly to the... I'm tired of hearing people talk about Brecht, Tony, as the benchmark of revolutionary theater. Revolutionary? I'm just talking about talking directly to the audience. You want to talk rebel, Tony? Artaud is the rebel, Tony. He did it in a deeper way. He's the maverick, Tony. He's the athlete of the heart, and not talking to a fucking ghost in a moment of illusion. What is the problem with that? What is your problem? Can we not do that? Does that violate your dramaturgical? You're not giving Artaud enough weight, Tony, all right? Artaud is weighty, that's all. He opens up the boil and stuff comes out. And the ugly is the beautiful, Tony, the pus. But don't say pus, it's not very poetic. Don't put that in, Tony. He was completely mad, yes, which is even better, Tony. And he talked about, you know, the intermingling between you and me. I don't mean you and me, Tony. You know what I mean, you and them. Anyway, Brecht did not invent that, Tony. I didn't say that. Did he reinvent it? Who invented it? Well, who the hell's know? I don't know, Tony. The Greeks. Oh, fuck the Greeks. I know. Thank you, the Greeks. Yeah, the Greeks before Brecht. Yes, the Greeks invented everything. I know, including sex. But as the Italians said to the Greeks invented sex, but Italians introduced it to women. There, thank you. Your interruption offered the humor you were looking for. I hope you're happy now. Now, please, scram. And I did it with a cliche, so PhD this. Sorry, Sarah. Where were we, Sarah? No more ghosts, I promise you, Sarah. I'll act them in if I hear you snore, okay? Seeing that these ghosts are funnier with their ideas than I can ever be with my jokes. You know, Sarah, they remind me of an old Calabrian saying, the hen lays the egg and the rooster complains about an itchy ass. I mean, what's the point, Sarah? I don't mean the point. I mean, what is the point of any point, Sarah? Lives important to a few are meaningless to many. Can ideas be worth more than lives when, without lives, we don't need them? Any ideas, Sarah? You know, a political ghost, Italian-Canadian with too much 24 Sussex on his mind, told me, we, the Canadian we, have too many ideas. We just don't know how to implement and commercialize them. Well, he won't matter much to many because not much matters to him. I mean, why Sinatra matters is because beyond the obvious, the music, all or nothing at all matters. Many strange fruit hang from those fucking ropes. Not just black Americans, said Frank. And wherever he went till the day he died, a guide stared at him from a corner of a room, each time a different kind, a different room in a different town. And Sinatra knew the word in the guy's head, Guinea. And Sinatra didn't pay too much attention to school because school didn't tell the stories that he knew, those he heard in different places, in different room corners of America. The stories school tamed with quarter pints of room temperature homogenized milk, sipped in silence at recess. And why this matters, Sarah, is because here is here from here, and there is there from here. But there from there is here, and here there. Because the us in a fear of people who are not like us is every us. People fearing people who are exactly like us. All think there is only one us, each us with a corresponding them, who in turn believe they, them are the us, and we, us, are the them. And when this world calls it a day, Guinea will have completed its world tour, and every person will have been a guinea and a parasite to the other. And apologies will be the new currency, buying time before striking again and again till there's no more left, no one left to hurt or kill. We're going to the point, Sarah. Of course we know that. I mean, you know that. And you know the cliches do not come about by accident, Sarah. Okay, I know you're going to kill me, Tony. Oh, the wise man ghosts. I mean, I'm always interested in what he has to say, Sarah. I know. I promise no more ghosts, Sarah, but I got to keep them close, you know, just in case. I mean, the undisputed truth is, Sarah, as those close to me die, I rely more and more on the dead to help me with the living. Okay, I'm just putting it out there, Tony. I mean, you know, I'd hit me if I didn't ask me this, so I'm asking you, Tony. Who's your audience? Who's my audience? Yeah. I mean, you know, the actors, Italians, what, who? I mean, you should make me say Jews right here, Tony, okay? As part of the list, you know what I mean? As a question, I'd like that. I mean, I think it's good for you, my ghost, and for you. I mean, who the fuck is the audience when you're talking about health, justice, or food? Why do we have to limit the field with this? I mean, are we going to jury select an audience? You tell me who the audience should be. No, don't. I mean, was the Holocaust a crime against Jews or humanity? Oh, Tony, you should say humanity or Jews. Humanity first, then Jews, Tony. I mean, what is this fucking penchant you have to tell people? Don't feel the need to say something when you're asked to say something, but say something other than what is already being said. Oh, no, Tony, in our time, your argument is used to minimize the Holocaust. It's a crime against Jews first. You know, I got to keep on top of you, Tony, to make sure you don't say things, you know, bad about my people. You know, the funny thing is you care, Tony. Anyway, I think you should stay away from the whole Jew thing, Tony. I was just talking about everyone thing. No, okay. I have to leave her. I know you're going to write me out of this, Tony, but I'll say this, Tony. You need to frame this, Tony. You need a specific context, a specific space. Like, imagine you were performing this, Tony. Who you have there and where is that where? What is that where and why? That's what you need to do, Tony, and where you need to do it, Tony. I don't even know why I said that. It doesn't sound like me. I never said that. You're combining me with another character, Tony. I want to stand alone. I don't need somebody else to feel whole, Tony. It makes me angry. And yet, Tony, you made it sound like me, so thank you. That's okay, Tony. I know, Tony. You don't want a space for just theater people. I know what you want. You want a space where non-theater people feel comfortable walking into with without fearing they may come out of there looking like vegetarians. No, not vegetarians, vegans. Even worse, Tony. I know what you want, Tony. The Bata Shoe Museum, Tony. What about doing it there? Why? Well, because it's there, Tony, just across the street. From where? From here, from everywhere. No, it's okay. No. I'm fine right here. You know, Sarah's good enough for me, okay? She's my audience, my place, and my space all in one. She is the basket, the penguin that I will trust with all my eggs. Well, she's just one, Tony. You have no problem believing one sick person can start an epidemic, but you can't conceive of one person igniting a healthy trend with one small action. Yeah, Tony, but she's not your people. Okay, that didn't sound right. I'm sorry. I know she doesn't have to be your people. But the reality is, Tony, you've got to rely on your own troops, okay? That's where the world is going. It's always going there, Tony. I mean, the end of the Roman Empire, hiring outsiders for its armies. I'm not saying it, Tony. It's been said. Look, forget that. Okay, Sarah. Okay, Sarah. Got it, Tony. You want Sarah. Okay, I understand. Where do you want to take Sarah, Tony? That's what I want. Okay, come on, give it to me, Tony. That's what I want. I mean, what's wrong with sharing a journey where we don't know where we're going? Is there anything wrong with that? The dream? That it should be a dream is a fucking nightmare. I have faith in the journey with no purpose, no destination, in this. I have faith in her, in Sarah. Perhaps more than I have in me. Now leave me alone. I'll read your fucking Kafka when I have the time. You bastard, Tony. Hey, Tony, you ever thought of filming this? Then what? Well, you know, I don't know. Film it first, Tony. I think it'd be a good thing to film it. You know, don't limit yourself, Tony. Or maybe it's a book, Tony. Maybe this is a book. It could be a book. I mean, you know, how many words make a book? You know what I mean, Tony? A book. I don't know. Well, I'm into documentaries, so I wouldn't know either, Tony. But I mean, maybe this is a documentary, Tony. Maybe I should shoot it. I make documentaries. I mean, I'm trying to work on a fiction, but you know, right now, my strength, my forte is a documentary, Tony. Maybe this is a documentary. I'll shoot it, Tony. I'll shoot anything. That's not true. I'm just saying that. Why do I put myself down? You're making me say that, Tony. All right. You're talking about film, Tony, TV, but film it. You know, you're reacting to something on film. Do it with film, Tony. Tit with that with film. You know, pellicule. Yeah, pellicule. What, Tony? Your voice doesn't sound like you. Who am I speaking to right now? Well, to the me who doesn't sound like me right now. Anyway, Tony, I'm not giving you what you need. I know. I'm sorry, Tony. I didn't do enough damage. I know you want damage, right, Tony? If I had lines for you yesterday, Tony, and I know you're just going to twist what I'm saying, and you're going to make it better. No. Trust me, this is good. What you're saying is great. No, the only thing, Tony, I'll say, and I really have to leave after this, Tony, when you make me say, you know, what you make me say above, who's your audience, and I said, I want to see Jews in there as a question, so we really know. I meant Jewish artists, Tony, like me. That's what I meant by Jews specifically. Anyway, that's my thing. I know I shouldn't say shoulds and shouldn'ts. Anyway, Tony, would you please liberate me? Let me go! Listen to me, Tony. I have to face my demons, and it's really upsetting me. I gotta go, Tony, okay? I can't eat anything, and I'm hungry. I'm on the special diet, and it's making me sick. Bottom line, Tony, my ghost is misunderstood. I mean, me, and that's humiliating. To be immortalized is my greatest need. To be humiliated is my greatest fear. But that's what you're doing to me, Tony. You're immortalizing me by humiliating me. Thank you for the gift, Tony. I'll take what I can get. I gotta go. Let me go. I can't. Okay. I just can't, because I'm gonna stay. I know. I'm gonna keep giving you great exit lines. Anyway, take from me, Tony. Take, because it keeps me alive. Just don't make me look foolish, Tony. No, frivolous. No, it's not the word. Ridiculous. That's what it is. Because Israel is fighting a war on all the fronts, and the world in this case will focus on the headbutt, not the provocation. In this case, the crime will be the headbutt, Tony. I gotta go, Tony. I got this thing, and I'm late. I'm a study, Tony. I'm a study in your letter, and I don't like it. Well, true, Sarah. You know, a majority understands what ails a minority only when it becomes the minority. All past empires knew this, once they were no longer empires. Only the present believes it'll be spared that fate. Dottore, you're the only ghost who entered with a pause, you know, or maybe I wrote you that way, knowing that that's how you make most entrances. Well, Tony, I mean, it's your pen, you wrote it. Yeah, that's right. You know, I want to get this out of the way, okay, because right now you are in my way, even when I don't see or hear from you. So go, defend, curse, rip me apart, do your damage, Dottore. Well, Tony, you haven't given me a heart. No one can give anyone a heart, you know that. I haven't given your heart a voice. And that's the power and curse of the writer. He gets to decide who gets what. Well, everyone is entitled to 10 toes and 10 fingers. No. Unfortunately, not everyone is born with 10 toes and 10 fingers. Well, a goatee and nothing else for me, Tony. Even you can do better than that. Well, you know, I'm working on stereotypes, distilling the essence of character. I've given you what you have, what you offer. Well, it's barbaric to deny me the right to pursue passionately my concerns and interests, Tony. How can I defend, rip, or do damage? Well, that's why I chose not to give your heart a voice, because you would use your heart, rely on it. Well, you think I'm a fool? Besides, I want you to think. And do we ever think for once that when Winnie the Pooh thinks, he has no heart? I have offended you, Tony. The punishment is this. Oh, no, don't be silly. You don't have the time. You're too busy offending others and yourself. Well, it's arrogant to think that a person can smell out the fake from the real in any script, Tony. What is fake to one may be real to another. Oh, yeah, right, great. I understand what you're trying to say, but I disagree with what you're saying. Smell, Yeah, where scripts are concerned, yes, I tend to trust an actor's sense of smell. Well, I think, Tony, we need to see more of the actor in this letter, trapped emotionally in his dilemma. I mean, the dilemma in the end is simply an actor's dilemma. Not every actor's, but yours, Tony, only yours. That's when it's most effective, works extremely well. What, you mean I don't sound trapped enough? I didn't know that's how I felt or was supposed to feel. Well, I mean, we have that, Tony. We see that partly in the dilemma, and then we have these ideas like a lecture, with these literary references, even from acting manuals, and we lose. I mean, you lose something, we lose something. That's a pity, Tony. Is there someone else here with you, or are they waiting outside? Who is this we? Well, me, Tony. I'm talking about me as a member of an audience. Which audience? This audience right here? Or the one you carry around everywhere you go? Can't you just say me as opposed to we? Do you have to be a member of an audience? Because if there's only you, which there is, then you are the audience, the only audience. And that still doesn't make you a we. Because if you use a we, I'm thinking you've discussed this with the others and wonder where the others are, how many there are, and why they chose not to come here and voice their opinion, and why they chose you as their spokesperson. No, Tony, you chose me. Right. Thank you for keeping me honest. Well, Tony, you don't give the ghost a chance. You always win. You're always right. You're right. I'm not giving the ghost a chance to be trivial, pretentious, or irresponsible on this issue. And that makes me right about nothing. But you came here to defend the ghosts, and I respect that. I know you would have done it on your own. I brought you in, Dottore, so I can express my thanks to you and the other ghosts. Get this debate out of the way, and with it, you. Well, you use what they say against them, Tony. Yeah. Given the great education they've had, the world expects more of them. I don't know which world. Maybe the one deep in their heart that they envision at birth. The one they share with me in private, but betray in public. I continue to have more respect for the street corner prostitute. Question, Dottore. Is it because what I say they said makes them look bad in their own mind, or because I'm simply saying what they said? Wait! And if what I said made them, you, look great, then what? My saying it is fine? No, but you're saying what I'm saying. No, I'm saying what you said. That's right. I hear you thinking, it's not fair, Tony. Interesting how that comes up now, knowing where we're going with this, Interesting that fair should be a concern of yours, Dottore. Well, it's not fair, Tony. You put us here, castrated. Well, you can keep Johnny company, all right? I mean, there's one person who might actually feel for you. Interesting, you should not feel the same for him. He feels castrated. I got a Rent a Goalie script right here in the computer. You can just walk into the script if you want to and chat with Johnny. I think you were castrated way before I subtracted anything from your character, Dottore. It might explain your love for stereotypes. Well, I'm intrigued by your level of anger, Tony. I'm not sure it's your anger or the characters, You should read Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground, where he maintains the anger throughout, You should develop yours and sustain it in a similar way. I'm a sick man. I'm a spiteful man. I'm an unattractive man. I believe my liver is diseased. That's how it starts. Oh, I see. What, you feel what? You feel I'm dipping in the anger category? Why is he angry, that, underground guy man? Why is he angry? Well, he's sick, Tony. To be too conscious is an illness, a real fucking illness, Tony. On the other hand, your anger seems controlled, which indicates a lack of fear, and that's very troubling, Tony. I can't hear with these eyes, and I can't see with these ears, my father used to say. Perhaps because you're listening with your mouth. I have a library of fears, Dottore. The world's biggest fucking bookstore of fears. Fear of losing sight, fear of becoming numb, fear of having too much fear of not having enough fear of no longer feeling fear. Fear that tomorrow will not have many tomorrows and that too many tomorrows will look like yesterday. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being too well understood. I fear people who fear people. I fear the fear of failure more than failure. I fear success more than the fear of success. I fear mediocrity. I feel being mediocre. I fear those who know everything, and I fear those who say they don't know anything and say it way too often. I fear me. I fear growing old. I fear not growing old enough. I fear that the fear of all I fear might be my only strength. And how weak does that make me? I fear the loss of every fucking child anywhere in this entire world. Oh, I'm drowning in fucking fear. The fear that people are afraid to be free, truly free, and the fear that some people know who has the right to say this, who has the right to say that. It's in the prologue. You were probably talking to yourself while I was trying to talk to you, Dottore, wondering when my character would trip, fall, bleed, grovel, apologize for having ever thought he could express a free thought publicly. And I fear that I fear a lot more than I think I fear. Now, Dottore, do you think I should, develop those fears dramatically so you can enjoy your evening of theater? Sir Calabrian Dottore del Cazzo the First? And should I then do the same with my faults and scars? Because I've got a library of those too. And when you have me where you want me, Dottore, emotionally, Once you see me turned inside out, the way you think inside out should look like and feel like, then what? How do you celebrate your triumph? And with whom? Do you invite a theater full of people to join in the fun? Perhaps hold a ceremony in a funeral home where moo-moos hold hands and mom in a chant of self-pity, where we pretend to feel for one another while crying the feelings we've held inside. And are you sure you would not be alone in that triumph the way I feel alone in this? No, please, don't feel for my aloneness. Feel for yours, okay? Feel for yours. I'm actually okay with it. Well, I'm actually not sure if I'm actually okay with it. I'm not sure at all about anything. I mean, is it that you want me to shed the tears you've stuffed in the basement of your heart? Please don't fucking tell me you'd like to see me break down so you can sympathize with the character me, so you can feel for me because you can't feel for me now in the way I'm presenting myself in this, my predicament full of ideas, little emotion, with no dramatic dilemma. Please don't tell me that, though everything you say points to that, dottore. I do not want to emote. I want you to feel on your own. And I don't want you to cry, dottore. Save your fucking tears. Save them. I certainly don't want you to feel for me. I'm irrelevant where this is concerned, believe it or not. If you feel for me, then I have failed in this. I'd rather you feel for or react to the ideas, debate them instead of dismissing them, though I fully defend your right to dismiss them, if that's what you choose. I'd rather you feel for all of it. Homo sum en nihil humanum a me alienum puto. Bring your fucking heart to that. Well, then give me my heart, Tony, not yours. No, you're in hell. In hell, you don't get to choose. Well, you put me there, Tony. Oh, God, no. You earned there with air miles. I mean, what's wrong with feeling for an idea, dottore? Why can't you feel for an idea, for a good idea, a lost idea, a forgotten one, the lack of one, a stupid one, an awful one, a great one, a funny one, a tragic one, a suicidal one, a homicidal one? I'm not asking you how to feel, but what's wrong with simply feeling emotion for an idea other than hate? The intellect, my poet friend said, has a heartbeat. If you can't feel for ideas, caro dottore, it's because you've chosen to limit the field of what according to you is worthy of feeling. That's arrogant. I mean, you want the fucking Weather Channel of emotional climates and storms. I'm sure you can watch that all day long, you pig. The way pornographers watch all children from 2 to 92. So please, don't preoccupy yourself with my character's breakdown, the dramatic price he pays or doesn't pay or should pay in this. You know few people would do this because they fear the dramatic price they might pay off stage. But since I don't fear that price, I exercise my freedom to express it here. So enjoy my breakdown and demise in your mind, confident in your heart that I will pay for this. That's your reward, dottore, your payoff. Anger, 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 Tony. Are there no other emotions? Well, at least it's yours, Tony. That answers that. No, this, no. It's dramatic effect, dottore. Most actors get angry when they're trying to inject energy into a dead scene. Don't let the actor in me fool you. Oh, did you just improvise that, Tony? Or did you write that first? Oh, you're trying to trap me. Don't ask me questions you know the answers to. Well, you agree, Tony, the writer is above the actor. Let's not get into letter 2 now, please. Where do I say that? Well, who is talking now, Tony? Me. Me who? Spartacus, for Christ's sake. No, I'm Spartacus. I'm Spartacus. It's okay. Kirk, relax. It's all right. I got him, Kirk. Lots of guys. I don't know. You tell me, dottore. You tell me. Look around. The writer acts when he writes, and the actor writes when he acts. You tell me, dottore. All the roads lead to Rome, but all the roads are not the same. Most actors know the answer to your question, dottore, if they would care to ask it. Well, most actors, Tony, have no problem playing stereotypes. Audiences have no problem with stereotypes. They actually love them. It's usually the actors who have the problem with them that have a problem with them. And there are some very good stereotypes, Tony, and your failure to see how useful they can be is what's lacking in this. Oh, I see. Then why are you having such a problem being one? Well, I'm not, Tony. I'm a caricature. Well, that's honest. No, Tony, it's not. You made me one. You know, a Holocaust survivor used caricature of humans to describe people in camps. I understood what he meant. Should he have chosen another word? He was talking about half-finished lives, like yours. No, I'm having a hard time following your logic, Tony. Yeah, because you're a caricature. I mean a stereotype. Stereotype, in my humble opinion, Tony, is a wrong word. I mean, you should really try to use another word, Tony. You know, the English language is full of wonderful words, Tony. You should try it sometime. You know, stereotype is it doesn't really address what you're trying to say, Tony. You should perhaps use a word like a topos. What, topos? Yeah, topos. You know, Greek for place, or topoi for plural, or utopos for no place. Topos. Yeah, topos. Or topoi, yeah, plural. Utopos, yeah, topos. And this would what? This would facilitate the whole discussion on topos. I mean, stereotype. I mean, people, Sarah would know, immediately know that topos goes much further than stereotype, more inclusive, allows for more interpretation than the very rigid, little-known fucking word stereotype. I mean, the fact that only you and a couple of Greeks would get it, what, doesn't concern you anyway? No, I see. Or that most Italians might think that we're talking about a mouse or mice. That's what, okay, yeah. It clears it up for you? I see. You're sure you don't want to go with that, give that archaic word stereotype a chance? No. I see. You'd rather go with topos or topoi. I see. Well, find another word, Tony, but I think, it would solve the problem of dealing with the problem. The problem needs a new word. No. The problem already has a word. I mean, that's what, have you ever been topos? Or have you ever felt people looked at you and said, hey, what a topos? Or hey, have you ever said, hey, that's a topos? Or the show is a little topos, but the topos is in the writing. I think it's because the writer likes topos, topoi. Have you ever found yourself doing that? I mean, what would be the classic Canadian topos? Or should we go straight to the plural, topoi? Are there many? I mean, would it be easier for us to catch a spot, to spot a topos or a topoi in a script and in life than a stereotype? Or would we be saying, hey, that's a topos? A what? A topoi. You know what I mean. It's a stereotype. Man, Dottore, this is right up your country, isn't it? I wish I could offer you a long, thin cigar. It goes with your soul. Anger? No. This is indignation. I respect other people's religion. Please, I expect them to respect mine. Indignation. It's how I pray. Well, remember, Tony, actors, as Antonioni said, are just objects moving in space. All right, I won't say anything, So you can have the last word, because it's a good one. It speaks well of you and spares me the trouble of having to quote you in my next draft. Well, maybe Antonioni did underestimate actors a little, Tony, but I think actors are extremely valuable in any society, and possess a formidable talent. Like the Jews, they know how to kill their own. You bastard, Tony, you're making me say this. No. I'm only putting words in your mouth that came out of your mouth to begin with. I have no use for them. They're at home in your mouth. Now swallow and choke on them, and I'll make sure to stop writing right in the middle. No, Tony, wait, don't, Tony. I feel so much, Tony. You're not allowing me to feel any of it. Well, don't you think Johnny choked in the middle of what he was given to say? Let me write you a breath. Here. Tony, I feel and I fear, Tony, that by doing what you're doing, you're only making the situation worse for all of us, Tony, and you're giving power over to those who promote the stereotype, as you call it. I see. I feel the tyranny of victimismo, Tony! When we'll be perceived as blaming others, even when we're not. That's my fear, Tony. And I fear you will make my fears bigger than they are, Tony, and you will have brought a certain death and destruction to all Italians and to all actors. Wow. A cold city finally finds its heart. Thank you, Dottore. You got way more voice than Johnny ever did, and you deserved a lot less. I mean, I guess with your logic, people who eat just go on eating as if the ones who aren't were eating. Well, go ahead, Tony. Speak, write, rant, rage, go, kill your own. Kill! But remember, Tony, actors are Jews. If they defend too much, we call them aggressive, want to take over the world, and we wish they were dead. If they're passive, we think of them as too weak, parasitic, and we wish they were dead. And this is coming from someone who loves you, Tony, you bastard. And I hate you for making me say all this. I hate you. 2 minutes.